Hi everyone, and welcome to Mercury Priestess channel. I'm Nancy, and I will be speaking about trauma, healing, authenticity, and divination. And I will explaining how all these things connect and how can you heal by using divination actually, which could be interesting topic if you are into psychology and tarot astrology, human design, or numerology. So if you're interested, keep watching. Hi, so let's get started with first thing. So first thing that I want to clarify and define is what is trauma. So I go by the definition of Peter Levine. He's founder of somatic experiencing, and if you're someone who is into understanding trauma and becoming trauma informed, I highly suggest you look up his work. So his definition of trauma is that trauma is not in the event, trauma is in the person experiencing the event. In order to help you understand this, I will use an example. So let's say we have two people experiencing the same car accident, but one person find this experience to be highly traumatizing, while the second person find it to be slightly disruptive, but they're not very affected by it. So this shows us that trauma is not in the specific event, it is in the person experiencing this event. And this is because we are all wired in a different way, and we all had different life experiences, we have different parents, we have different kind of support, and some people are more easily triggered and traumatized by certain experiences and some are not. And even when we are children and we don't have huge history of experience, we still receive certain kind of nurturing from our parents and care, or the absence of it, and that also makes us prone to experiencing different events in different kinds of ways. So that's first thing I wanted to speak and explain, because I think it's very important to understand the trauma, because often trauma is looked at as something like people who went to war, people who experience family abuse or abusive relationship or things like that, but there are so many more experiences that could be traumatizing to a person that they are not necessarily as something that we see as typical trauma experiences, like those that I just mentioned. You could be, let's say you have sort of very supportive, loving family, but maybe they are very busy, they work a lot, and maybe you experience a lot of time longing to connect with them and for them to validate you, and you haven't experienced that because they are just very too busy and not focused on you, and that also created kind of disconnect with yourself, which I'll explain in second point, and made you feel like you are abandoned, even though they maybe haven't technically abandoned you, like maybe you haven't experienced divorce, maybe absence of one father because whatever reason, but you experience not being seen, heard, and validated. And that kind of brings me to this second point, and second point is authenticity and how trauma make us disconnected from ourselves. So basically, when we experience trauma, we experience disconnection with ourselves. Gabor Mate, a Hungarian psychologist, speaks about this, and he puts sort of emphasis on this. He said the trauma wouldn't affect us in very great way if we haven't lost connection with ourselves. And I can definitely attest to that, because when we experience any kind of trauma, we experience disconnection with ourselves, because whenever our body's mind and soul is always working on protecting us and keeping us in a state of alignment. But what happens when we experience particular trauma, it affects our mind and our heart in a way that there is a part of us that kind of gets pushed away, it gets disintegrated because it's just too painful to experience. So in order to not get overwhelmed with the experience and to actually survive particular trauma, we go in a state of disintegration. So basically, if you, let's say you experience abuse and there's part of you that was trying to protect you, that kind of ignore what happened and kind of push that part away from you. And maybe you continue living and you continue healing and you think you're doing well, but you still experience some kind of wounding when it comes to relationship. You maybe experience find it very hard to be open and vulnerable, and that is perhaps there is part of you that you have pushed aside in order to survive and kind of keep on with life, and you never address that one part of you that is asking and begging you for your attention and devotion. So that is something that I call soul healing, and find it very important part of healing, because sometimes modern psychology doesn't necessarily use soul, because soul kind of is connected with spirituality, and not every psychologist takes in account spiritual teachings, but I find them to be very healing when incorporated and in a very specific way. So by that being said, I want to move on to the third point, and that is divination and how divination can actually help us heal. So basically I work with numerology, tarot, human design and astrology, so as you can see I work with various different things. Very interested in seeing how all these things work and how can they help us heal and grow. So basically what all these tools can do for us is they can remind us of our purpose here. They can remind us of our inherent potentials, soul gifts, and remind us of our path here. They can even show us why we had to go through particular events, no matter how harsh and traumatic their way. They can show the purpose of it. So basically divination can show us and put our experience in different perspective, so that we can find more empowering and stronger approach to all these things that happen to us. So we can take and speak different narrative about these things, and in that way that can help us heal, because a lot of healing has to do is by reframing things and seeing things in a different way, because as they say, when you change the way you look at things, things change. So one part of using divination as healing is kind of reframing the story of things you have experienced, and I find astrology works very great for that. And second thing I really like is human design as well. Human design really helps us to connect with our intuition, with the body. Human design always says that we shouldn't make decisions with our minds, we should always follow our inner authority, and I will make another video about human design and our intuition, and we should lean more into knowledge of our bodies and our subtle sensation that comes from our bodies, because through our bodies we are connected through everything that is, and our mind is what actually kind of disconnects us, because it's oriented to problem solving and to keep us away from danger. And that's why when people have ruminating thoughts, they do have it because their brain thinks in that way that it will protect them. So those are two ways in which I use divination to help people heal and connect with themselves. So I will now kind of try to make a conclusion of all this and say that trauma is not in the event, trauma is in the person experiencing the event. Second, when we experience trauma, we experience disconnect from ourselves. And third, divination can help us connect to ourselves and to see things in a different way, and therefore making us more empowered and stronger. So if you agree with this, or if you have a completely different approach, let me know in the comments, like, subscribe, and I would be happy to see you back for another video. I will be talking more about human design, astrology, and some videos will be straight up pure psychology with a mix of some spiritual teachings. But overall, if you're interested in spirituality and psychology and how I use them, then stay tuned. Thank you for watching. Bye.